Good afternoon. I am Vishal Rajput. Today I am going to interview Major General Rajan Kochhar sir for the Military Archive project. The project was launched by the sorry, launched by the Center for Military History and Conflict Studies of the United Service Institution of India in collaboration with the History Division of the Ministry of Defense. It seeks to record the reminiscences of the military veterans who have participated in various wars and operations. Major General Rajan Kochhar was born on 21st August 1960 and lives in Greater Noida, Uttar Pradesh. He is an alumnus of National Defense Academy, Defense Service Staff College, and College of Defense Management, and was affiliated to the Army Ordnance Corps of the Indian Army. He was involved in the Operation Raksha and Operation Vijay during his service. He was awarded Vishisht Seva Medal and Commander's Commendation twice. He got decommissioned in August 2018. A very warm welcome to you on the Military Archive project, sir.
Thank you very much, Vishal. Pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you, sir. This interview is being recorded on 27th March 2022 in Sonipat at 1230 hours. So, sir, I will be starting this interview with your initial memory that why did you enlist in the Indian Army per se, and what were you living at that point of time?
Very good question. You see, when we are in school, we carry a large number of influences with us. We have our role models. We have the environment around us, which dictates what kind of profession we would like to go into after our school. It so happened that my father was also in the army. He was in
Oh,
the corps
wonderful.
of, he was in the corps of signals, and he was a great motivating force in my life. And uh, because I was part of an army background, because of my father's profession, we kept on moving from place to place, seeing diverse cultures, and also got exposed to an army way of life. So somehow it got ingrained into me that maybe, because see, you are too young at that time to decide for yourself.
That's
So
true.
you need to speak to either your friends or your parents or your brothers or sisters who are the main influences in your life. So I was more or less, my father told me that because mine was the last 1976 batch, which had a class 11. Because after that, in 1977, the 10 plus 2 started. So my father said that you have a 6 months break before you have to join college, because I wanted to otherwise become a doctor.
Okay.
So I was interested to follow medicine. So this 6 months of gap was there. So my father says that why don't you try for a career in the armed forces? And there was this UPSC exam for the National Defense Academy, and I appeared in that exam with very less preparation, because these days there are coaching institutes and there's so many things. I never had any coaching. I studied on my own. My father used to teach me maths because he
Okay.
was very good in maths. So we, I appeared in the examination and I qualified for the interview. Now, a very interesting anecdote in the interview. Uh, my father was posted in Agra at that point of time, and he had a friend who was the president of the SSB
Okay.
at some point of time. And it so happened that he was visiting Agra. So my father requested him that my son is going for an SSB interview. Would you like to spend an hour or so trying to assess him? And in case you find anything which is lacking in him, you could guide him or advise him. Because I never had any coaching or anything to, for the SSB Today, these money making institutes are all over the country. So I just spent an hour with him, and he he asked me questions, simple questions, situational questions, and I gave him my answers. So after that, I asked him. He says, "No, don't worry. I'll tell your dad. So you can go and enjoy yourself." So you, I left that place, and he told my father, "Ke his first name was Jagdish." He says, "Jagdish, don't worry. Your son is the material for the armed forces. He won't have any problem in the interview. So there is nothing to coach or guide him." That is what he told my dad. And at that point, my dad didn't tell me anything because he thought that I'll get overconfident. So he just said everything is fine and your answers were okay. So go and appear for the interview. So I went to Bhopal, SSB, and we were some 20 odd people in our batch who were there, and three got selected.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was one of them. So I was very happy. I rang him up. I said, I have cleared this thing. After that, I had to stay back for my medical examination. And I took a train and I came back to Agra. And at that point of time, my father told me, he told me that you had already been cleared by that colonel whom you met for 1 hour. And as a matter of fact, so providence is there. And so happened that I joined the National Defense Academy, and later on I was commissioned as an officer.
So, sir, are you the second generation army officer in your
Yes,
family?
yes,
Okay.
second generation.
So, sir, I could say, is this because of your father's background in the Indian Army that you had a personal, affection to join the Indian Army per se rather than the Air Force and the Navy?
Yes, yes. Actually, Air Force, my mother was against it. I also uh, cleared my Air Force exam
Okay.
because in those days, in case your second choice was Air Force, you
Mm-hmm.
had to go for a Air Force medical and a PABT test.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a pilot aptitude battery test, which I went to Dehradun and I cleared that also.
Okay.
And then we had our medical in Delhi. It was a very detailed medical examination. I cleared that. And then my mother put her foot down that I won't send you to the Air Force. I have reconciled to send you to the army, and you should be thankful for that. So
Okay.
in spite of being qualified to join the Air Force, I did not join the Air Force.
Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. So, sir, I just wanted to know, like, why did you particularly join the Army Ordnance Corps rather than other infantry division and other divisions of the army?
See, this is a message to all our youth of the country. Uh, Desire, passion, and capability are the three words to be remembered in life. We may desire many things. We may desire to become a doctor, we may desire to become a scientist, but do we have the capability in us and the passion? And it is very important to understand your own capabilities, your own strengths, your own weaknesses to be able to decide for yourself what you want in life. And that is why I'm of the firm believer that in case you choose a profession in which you feel you will be comfortable, you feel your temperament would be better suited, you will be a greater success in that field. So now, coming back to this question in particular, that See, I was from a convent school background, and I was very, very good in writing, analyzing issues, and even today, I have done my PhD because of that. I am uh, I write for Economic Times. I write for defense magazines. I write for international magazines. I have also written a book on breaking the Chinese myth. So all this is because I had the inherent talent, capabilities, and passion for writing. So when I realized that uh, what is the choice of arms to be filled before passing out from the Indian Military Academy, see, it's not a must that what you want to join, you will get. There is a system. There is a merit system, and you have to give three choice of arms oblique services.
Okay.
So my first choice was Army Ordnance Corps.
Okay.
My second choice was artillery, and my third choice was infantry.
Okay.
So you are given your choice based on they have a matrix kind of a system. It's computerized. So uh, I was lucky to get my first choice, and the reason was in Army Ordnance Corps there is less regimentation. You are allowed to have a wider scope to do things for yourself. You are not your initiative and your initially is not curbed by anybody. It is rather encouraged. And then when my father was in his last tenure, he had a deputation with Army Ordnance Corps because he was a technical officer in a central ordnance depot.
Okay.
And that point of time, I had a large number of friends from ordnance, and I got influenced by what they told me at that point of time. That was considering my temperament also and my own strengths. I decided to join, or I decided to opt for Army Ordnance Corps, and I was lucky that I got my first choice.
Okay. It's wonderful to hear that you actually got your first choice and you served your whole service in that division. So, sir, how was your experience, your training experience while you were inducting into the Indian Army at the NDA, and later that how you went on the field? So, how was your experience at that point of time?
See, uh, when we join the National Defense Academy, we are coming from different spheres of life. There'll be cadets from Sainik schools. There would be uh, cadets from the RIMC. There would be military school. There would be government school, public schools, convent schools. So basically, when we are in school, we are not attuned to certain physical activities which we had to undergo in the National Defense Academy. And since I was from a convent school, I may be playing my games and all, but I did not know these physical routines like handspring, front rolling, backflip, a horse. There is a PT routine in which you have to jump on a artificial horse kind of a thing, and you have to come across with your legs absolutely parallel to that artificial horse. So it was very difficult for me initially to be able to come up to that laid down standards. It took me almost 1 year of hard training to be able to pass my tests. whereas these Sainik school and military school guys were doing this in school itself. So they didn't have any problem because for them it was like uh, the second fiddle type of a thing, that it's their own normal apna business. So that was one experience of mine that I had to work doubly hard. The second was that I initially took a science stream because in NDA you have the option to either go for a science or a non-science stream.
Okay.
So initially I took a science stream and I found it very difficult to cope up with that studies and physical standards, because I used to be totally exhausted at the end of the day, and you have to have uh, 2 hours compulsory study period in the evening. So I used to be dozing off in my study period. So I switched over to the non-science stream, and then see, I would recount one interesting episode of my life so that it can bring out some lessons to our youth of today about resilience. Uh, I was admitted in the hospital. I had a tumor operation in my stomach. I lost 6 months in the academy. I was relegated. So I joined the 58th course. I passed out with the 59th course of the NDA. And in my entire life, in my entire school, I had never faced a failure in life. This was the first time that I faced a failure in life. And I found it extremely difficult to come out of it. Uh, there was a lot of mental trauma of this failure, because see, when you are not used to a failure, and a failure of this kind, uh, and it's a setback that with your own batch you are not passing out, you'll be passing out with the junior batch. So it made me mentally strong, and a lot of support I got from my parents at this point of time, especially my mother. So she gave me a lot of mental strength to actually face this challenge. So I faced it, and I cleared my academy with the 59th course. And because of this challenge I took in my life, when I was commissioned in the Army Ordnance Corps, in the young officers course, I got the silver medal.
Okay.
And there were officers who were with me in the 58th course and 59th course who were doing the young officers course along with me. So that was one moment of my life when I look back, that from a failure, I rose to get a silver medal in my young officers course. And after that, I haven't looked back. Whatever failures were there. I mean, temporary setbacks are there in everybody's life, and I also encountered those in my service. But then I moved on with a greater strength, which I had built in myself, and I had been taught how to face a failure. Therefore, I could face it with a smile and move on. That is an important lesson in life.
Yes, sir. That's true, sir. So, sir, during your training, so do you still remember your instructor or your courseman after serving the whole period of your life in the Indian Army?
Yes, see, Army is such a beautiful organization. I am from the Lima Squadron,
Okay.
known as Lions. And today, the chief of the army staff is a lion who was with me in the same squadron. He
Okay.
is 1 year my senior, and we were together. Then just retired A chief was also in the same squadron, Lima squadron. And today we Lions, 10 of us who are stationed in Delhi NCR, we meet every 2 months.
Okay.
And once in a year, we go and spend time with our families in a jungle resort. And we spend the night there. And
Hmm.
those old days, come back. The old days of almost 41 years, 42 years gone by, 37 years in the army, 4 years of training, 41, and 3 years since I've retired. So 44 years, you go back in time and you remember those incidents and those pranks you did and how you got caught, what kind of punishments you had to undergo together, the kind of camps we did together. So this bonding we have today, and that is the reason after my retirement, I am staying in an army colony. I'm staying in a flat. I could have stayed in my own house of my parents also, but I prefer to stay in a flat here because here I have friends who have been with me in the army. We remember us army days, and not only army days, the school days. Today, I'm from Mount St. Mary's, Delhi, Kent.
Okay.
So we have our own 1976 batch WhatsApp group, and we have around 30 of us in that group, and we daily post messages on our birthdays, anniversaries, and we keep track of each other and meet occasionally. So this is the school bonding,
Hmm.
and we have a old boys association which binds us. As a matter of fact, I uh, did my class 11 from St. Peter's College, Agra. I mentioned to you that I
Mhm.
joined NDA from Agra. So the principal kept a track of me from the secretary of the Old Boys Association. So when I was a brigadier, he invited me to be a chief guest of the school annual day function. So when I landed up in Agra, I found Kapil Dev also there.
Okay.
He was also the chief guest. So the principal told me, sir, you both are chief guests. And the honor he gave me an honor which was ahead of Kapil Dev also. In the annual day, I was the first person who was given opportunity to speak. The prize distribution was done by me and all that. So the love, affection your school gives you, because Kapil Dev is not from my school. He was an invitee. But since I was an alumni, I was, and it was my alma mater. So that kind of place, the students who related to me, and I went in uniform to you motivate them to join the armed forces. And this is what I told in my speech also. So this kind of bonding and feeling you have from your school days, from your academy days, and from your army days will carry you throughout your life.
Yes, sir. That's true, sir. And so now coming to your experience in the service, so what was your role in Operation Rakshak and Operation Vijay? If you can just elaborate, whatever is meant for the public domain.
See, it was very interesting in Oprakshak. Indira Gandhi was assassinated at that point of time. I was in Gurdaspur.
Okay.
So I was tasked to take a patrol, a mobile patrol of 25 odd men with me. 2, 3 GSOs. I was a young captain that time.
Okay.
And I was told that there'll be arson and looting all over. So you have to take stock of the situation. You have to move around the city. You have to ensure that nobody is indulging in arson and looting. And you also have to carry out a flag march in areas where there is a lot of tension. Seeing the army, people are reassured that army is there to take care. So it was an internal security situation. And you can understand the passions which had been aroused when she was assassinated, and what happened in Delhi, where the Sikhs were targeted. We are aware of it. So it was a very sensitive situation, and I had even orders for shoot at sight. We were armed with weapons, we were armed with ammunition, and those firing orders had to be on my orders, since I was leading that patrol, or the quick reaction team, as we actually call it, the QRT. So I was just recently married, and and my wife saw me in that dress, so she started, crying, "Eh, you're going for war or something like that." I said nothing. I mean, so minor. I didn't tell her the reason where I was going, and in that area we encountered 3, 4 unruly mobs, and here I feel the your constraint, your communication skills, you're able to reach out to people to diffuse a situation becomes very important. Because after all, you see, they are our own countrymen. They are not the enemy, but the passions and the incitement of some of the political leaders around us uh, make them behave like a mob. And you have to understand the mob psychology is different from the psychology of an individual. Because the moment he comes into a mob, you will find his behavior will be absolutely different. So they were. So it is important when we encounter this mob to identify who's the leader. And once you identify that leader in that mob and you take care of him, you catch him or you bring him over to your side and talk to him, you will find that most of the situation gets diffused in time. So it is very important that whenever we are assigned these kind of roles, unfortunately, the police is not properly trained on this aspect. Training on this aspect is very important, formal as well as informal training. So you will find that a lot of incidents can be avoided in case you are properly trained to handle a mob like situation, which, let me tell you, is not an easy task.
Yes, sir.
They
Definitely.
can burn your vehicle also, and you never know. They may be armed, and they can fire at you also, which we saw recently, the Delhi riots, and how they got out of control. So this was one important lesson at a very a young age of me, I was just a captain at that point of time. So this was this incident of operation.
So I could say, sir, that like you went to Gurdaspur as a part of this Operation Raksha, right?
So my unit was positioned there.
Okay, sir. So is there any other thing like a concern to the Operation Raksha? Like you served any other place or any other response?
Uh, there was another incident, not exactly in Rakshak, but it was an incident which took place in Srinagar.
Okay.
I was a major at that time. I was posted there, and I was the administrative officer of that logistic installation, which was in the heart of Badami Bagh cantonment.
Okay.
And we had this Defense Security Corps is an organization which provides security to installations, and especially the retired Faujis are actually employed here.
Okay.
So, 2 o'clock in the night, I got a message that one of the DSC Jawan, he has a weapon in his hand, and he is threatening to shoot his senior who was in front of him, and he had pointed the weapon on him.
Okay.
So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was woken up by this call. Immediately, I rushed, and we have seen many cases. It is known as fratricide.
Okay.
Fratricide, it's called. It is an incident in which a Jawan shoots his own officers, his own men, due to some kind of grievance he has. So it involves a great deal of man management skills and good administration skills to ensure that such incidents don't happen in your command. So I went there, and this guy was pointing the gun on him, and he was abusing him, and he was threatening to shoot him. And nobody was uh, coming near him, because in case anybody went near him, he'll get shot. So I reached there, and I talked to this thing from a distance of about 20-25 feet. I was away, and I told him that, so why are you doing this? What is troubling you? So he says, "Ke this guy, he's all the time abusing me. He's speaking low about my caste. And whenever I want some leave or something like that, he's always making me run around and delays and all that. So he's a very vindictive person as far as I'm concerned. I want to shoot him." So I got him talking, because see, it's important that when you encounter a situation like this, that communication has to be kept, because the moment you lose communication with that kind of individual, then you don't know what he'll do next. So I kept on talking to him. In the meantime, I gave an indication to two of my men to move from the side and try to overpower him when I will sort of give a signal. So I kept on speaking to him, and I kept on coming closer to him. So he told me, "Sir, I have got a lot of respect for you. I have got nothing against you, but I am going to kill him today." तो आई टोल्ड हिम कि अगर आप इसको मार भी दोगे तो आपको क्या हासिल होगा? You will go to jail. Your family will be deprived of a son. A bread earner in the family will be lost. और इसका क्या होगा? इसको मारने के बाद इसको क्या हासिल होगा तुम? और जो तुम अभी मुझे बता रहे हो, जो भी आपको ग्रीवेंस है, मैं अश्योर करता हूं तुमको दैट आई विल create an environment where you will never have any problem in the youth any longer. So somehow, slowly, he was trying to get convinced, and I kept coming closer to him, 10 feet, 8 feet, 7 feet. That was the point of time. Then I gave indication to these two men to immediately jump on him and overpower him, and we did that. And we took the weapon from him and we just put him in custody for the night. And the next day, of course, we did our own action under the rules and all. So I'm just saying that it's important to take stock of a situation. It is important to take responsibility. It is important to get the situation under control. And I never informed my commanding officer. You see, I didn't want the situation to get escalated in the night. And it was a great risk also I took on my own career. Because by chance, in case he shot anybody, so then a lot of questions are going to be asked. So whatever it is, we have to at times take all these risks which we actually visualize, and we have to take on the responsibility. We have to address the situation. We have to diffuse the situation. That is important.
Yeah, that's true, sir. So that's really wonderful to know that what you had incidented in the Operation Raksha. But I would like to take some questions regarding Operation, your roles and responsibilities in Operation Vijay. So how did you go through that operation and what was your role in that?
Yeah. So this was a very important operational task, and especially if you uh, remember Kargil episode, what actually happened there. And so, what was important at that time, I was a lieutenant colonel. I was posted as an AQMG of a strike formation in Meerut.
Okay.
We were part of two corps, which is an offensive strike formation which fights in the deserts.
Okay.
And as a AQMG in staff, I was in staff with the infantry division, 22 infantry division.
Mm-hmm.
I was a staff officer there. And my responsibility was to ensure logistics to the division in war, be it ammunition, be it weapons, fuel, oil, lubricants, rations, water, transport. So the entire movement of that division to an operational area, entire movement of that division for the replenishment of ammunition, replenishment of water supplies was my responsibility. So the operational part will be that there is somebody who is making the operational plans. There is somebody who is approving the operational plans in staff. So once that operational plan is approved, there is a logistic plan which has to mesh with it. Because without logistics, you can't win the war. If I am not able to replenish my men of the ammunition which they have used in the day, and on the next day, if they are without ammunition, then how can they fight? So I am responsible for that. So we were asked to mobilize because it was like a war situation. And we were on 6 hours notice to move to any of these assigned areas in Jammu and Kashmir. And we were in peacetime. In peacetime, then we had to switch over to a warlike situation. And in a warlike situation, because normally in peacetime, we have a number of deficiencies with us, which are not that critical at that point of time, because we know that we're not going for war. But all of a sudden, if you're asked to go for war, these criticalities become very important. See, if I need 15 days of ammunition, and if I have only 7 days of ammunition with me, it becomes a criticality. What is happening in the Ukraine and Russian conflict today? It's gone past a month. So logistic issues are coming up now, because the Russians had not envisaged that the battle will go so long. Yes, it could have actually gone till about 15 days, 20 days. But today what we are saying is this battle will go beyond months. It may take 2 months, 3 months for the situation to stabilize in Ukraine. So logistics becomes important. We saw a number of columns of the Russians stuck up on the road because of logistic issues. So to gear up the division and only 3 hours notice, and the kind of deficiencies which had to be made up, because those 3 hours can happen anytime. It can happen after 72 hours, it can happen after 96 hours, or it can happen after 7 days. So I don't think I slept for more than 2 hours in a day. And for continuously for 10 days, we were, of course, not called in, because I think the US pressure came in very strongly, and the Indian government had to stall its, because we had almost decided to attack Pakistan. We have actually decided to operational Parakram, if you remember.
Yes, sir.
We were almost there for 1 year. So it was a fallout of the Operation Vijay. So that is how this challenge of equipping a formation with ammunition, with spares, with making the vehicles and the tanks and the guns functional, roadworthy. We used to have a system called mothballing. You have actually heard of this term?
No, sir.
Okay, mothballing. Mothballing is that when you are in peace and you want to preserve an equipment, you mothball that equipment.
Okay.
In the sense that you remove all the parts of that gun system and you wrap them and you grease them and you put them in a dust-free environment.
Okay.
You preserve the life of the equipment. So now to deactivate yourself from a mothball situation, you had to assemble that same equipment again now. And after assembling, you have to also see that whether it is working or not. Because in peacetime, for years, this equipment is lying.
Yes, sir.
So it is for the logisticians, it is a great challenge, people who are generally in the fighting arms, they at times don't understand what a logistician has to plan and how he accomplishes the plan. So it is important. Any good commander today, he is only good if he understands his logistics very well. So in any operation, a commander who considers logistics as second rate, he will never be successful in his operation. So this challenge of making this division roadworthy, battle-worthy, and making up all deficiencies of equipment, ensuring 80% serviceability state of the equipment was a great challenge.
Yeah, it was quite thorough that you elaborated the role of the logistics basically in the war zone times and uh, I could say operational areas. So, sir, as far as the Operation Rakshak is concerned, so did you see the combat at that point of time?
See, operational Rakshak was basically an internal security situation.
Okay.
It was an operation which was dealing with the internal security of the country. It was not dealing with the uh, Pakistan centric or a China centric affair. So, because see, one of the functions of the Indian Army is also internal security.
Yes, sir.
In Jammu and Kashmir, it's on. We are already there. The Northeast also we are there. So wherever this situation goes out of hand, and the paramilitary forces or the local police are not able to resolve it or control it, the Indian Army is called.
Okay, so like you never had that combat during Operation Rakshak.
No.
Okay. So that was really wonderful. And so I hope that you would not have also faced any combat during Operation Which as well.
So,
Because
of course, this operation, Vijay, see, we were all ready to go to war, but that actually never happened.
Yes, sir.
So, we were prepared. We had actually made up all our deficiencies and we were ready to mobilize. And we would have actually mobilized, but then orders didn't come.
Yeah, that's true, sir. So, like, I would just like to reiterate the objective of this interview is to understand the shortcomings veteran face during experiences in the operations and other wars. So, I would like to know from your point of view that if you have faced any shortcomings as far as the operation is concerned, so the lessons could be taken from your experience for the future generation and for the policymakers.
So, one important aspect which emerged was in 2017 when Doklam happened.
Yes, sir.
If you remember, Chinese came in Ladakh area, occupied that area. Bhutan, they came in. So now I was posted as the Major General Army Ordnance Corps Central Command.
Okay. And where was you stationed, sir? At Ladakh?
Lucknow.
At Lucknow. Okay.
So our formations were deployed on the Chinese border in Uttarakhand.
Okay.
Because if you have heard about this Lipu Lake,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Mana Pass, Yoshimat, Pithoragarh, and all these areas, they are on the border with China.
Yes, sir.
Normally, this border generally remains dormant. Chinese don't activate this border because firstly is that limited passes are there to enter. And of course, if they enter, they can reach Kedarnath.
Yes, sir.
It's hardly any distance, let me tell you. So we also have very limited formations deployed there because the threat perception was not there.
Okay.
We always thought that Chinese will never come from here because they normally address all those areas in Sikkim area, Ladakh area, all those Arunachal Pradesh and all that, eastern Ladakh side and western Ladakh side. And now in Doklam, we observed certain Chinese movement on the Uttarakhand
Okay.
for the first time. The Chinese were had activated their troops
Mm-hmm.
and in a number of places they entered Indian territory unchallenged because we didn't have deployment in all those areas in the forward zone. So it was a major surprise to us and a shock to us. And we were not prepared for the Chinese, let me tell you.
Okay.
So I was called by my army commander
Mm-hmm.
and he told me, Rajan, I give you 1 month time. I want dumping of ammunition to take place in these areas.
Okay.
I want you to take on this role and ensure that our forward ammunition dumps are replenished, ammunition is reaching those areas, the gun systems will also reach, but your responsibility is to ensure the movement of ammunition. Now, we didn't have the ammunition. So, ammunition was lying in Central Ammunition Depot, Pulgaon, Maharashtra.
Okay.
So, from there, the ammunition has to be moved to Joshimath, all these places. Roads are underdeveloped. Many of the roads do not have a black tar coating.
Okay.
They are kacha roads.
Mm-hmm.
Because the government never bothered to develop the border infrastructure in these areas. And there were many areas where we wanted to have our forward ammunition dumps, but they were forest areas.
Okay.
So the forest department never gave the clearance. When the MOD asked them for a no objections certificate, they never gave because the issue got stuck up in the environmental ministry.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
So the environmental ministry said that how can you cut trees? So I'm just saying this bureaucratic way of functioning of the country, and when China is at your doorstep, are you going to take environmental clearance from anybody to move your forge?
Yes, sir.
You tell me the security of your country is at stake here. You know, how can you be actually involved in all these clearances and also? I can only tell you in a nutshell that in 30 days, what I went through was something unimaginable. I had to go and meet IS officers in the ministries of environment, in the Ministry of Defense and other areas. Ammunition had to be released. The priority of ammunition is with Northern Command.
Yes, sir.
So, Jammu and Kashmir formations, Ladakh formations are going to be given ammunition first, only then we will get. So now this entire ammunition release had to be prioritized. So you had to meet the people, you have to explain them what is happening in Uttarakhand. You have to explain them what China is doing. You have to convince them because mere explaining them will not satisfy them. So here is one organization trying to justify to another organization when the enemy is at your doorstep.
Yes, sir.
So you imagine this kind
Of
of
course. Yeah.
red tapeism we have in our organization.
Yes, sir.
So, and we talk about Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat and all these big things we're talking about. Let us sort out our house first, in-house. These minds of the bureaucrats have to be sanitized. They have to be taken to the border areas.
Yes, sir.
George Fernandez, he was one defense minister when a file was put under objection by his defense secretary. He asked his secretary to move and go to Siachen and come back and then tell him whether he wants to sign or not. So his secretary was sent to Siachen. He came back and he immediately signed the file because then he understood the problem.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Because you're sitting in the air-conditioned environments of Lutyens, Delhi and South Block, these guys don't understand what the armed forces is going through. So, to cut the long story short, we were able to, I mean, it was a challenge, but that challenge was met. And still, we have a long way to go as far as this Uttarakhand sector is concerned. Because people have even gone to Supreme Court.
Mhm.
If you are aware, if some roads had to be built up, the people even went to Supreme Court that they are spoiling the environment of the nation. So all these things have to be taken into consideration.
Yes, sir. So that's really good to that to hear about your role during the 2 Club crisis. So it's really unimaginable that we had to face the Chinese threat as well at the Uttarakhand sector as well. So, like coming into your questions of regarding your personal experience in the service of Indian Army. So, how did you stay in touch with your family during the operational time, and how did your family manage to see yourself involved in the operations?
See, one advantage of the armed forces is that you are like a family,
Mhm.
extended family. That is in case you are away also, your unit or your people in the uniform take care of your family.
Mhm.
Your family is not allowed to feel that he is alone. The children are alone because the support system which this organization gives you, I do not think any organization will give. So I was extremely lucky that whatever time I spent away on my duties, the family was taken care of. And I not once felt uncomfortable that my wife was alone or my children were alone because they were looked after. Basic amenities were available. And in the case of any kind of exigency on account of medical or something like that, help was available. So, I mean, I never felt a void in this.
So, did you never used to get in touch with the family during operation time? Like, is there any mechanism in the armed forces?
Yes, see, अभी अभी तो मोबाइल आ गया है now, तो it's very easy.
Yes.
We used to have satellite communication.
Okay.
So with the satellites, you could connect a call on the landline
Mhm.
and you could speak to them
Mhm.
because BSNL and all these things were there at that time. So we used to be talking on the phone
Okay.
once in a while.
Mhm.
And that beautiful system of letter writing used to be there.
Okay.
So most of the times it used to be in the form of letters.
Mhm.
And we used to eagerly I await the dark actually coming to us. Either it used to come by helicopters or through other means. And we used to eagerly await कि आज हमारी चिट्ठी आई कि नहीं है ना. उसको मूवी में देखा हो ना, बॉर्डर में.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Saw that how letters used to come. You 1971 war, 65 war.
Yes, sir.
That was the only source of communication at that point of time. So it still is. I mean, of course, now it's died down because now there is email and
WhatsApp and
Instagram and WhatsApp. So now I don't think hardly anybody writes a letter unless it is some kind of official process you are actually encountering.
yes, sir. Yeah. So, sir, would you like to recall any particular humorous or any unusual event in your service as you encountered during your, with your juniors or any other seniors with them?
See, there are actually many of such incidents with the seniors and the juniors. So it's difficult to pinpoint one odd incident here and
You
there.
can just recall one or two.
But one incident is when I was ADC with the governor of Tamil Nadu. The army officers also get deputed as ADCs to president and the governors.
Okay.
There is a selection process in which I got selected. I went to Tamil Nadu. And my governor was Dr. P.C. Alexander.
Okay.
Was an eminent personality. Was principal secretary to Indira Gandhi. Was High Commissioner to London. He was an IAS officer. A very, very humble, learned, and a disciplined person. So it was a pleasure to work. I almost worked with him for more than 3 years.
Okay.
Because he extended my tenure twice, much against the wishes of the Ministry of Defense. He got them overruled by T.N. Session, who was Defense Secretary.
Okay.
So, in one incident, the DMK was in power that time. Karunanidhi was the chief minister. Prior to that, it was governor's rule for 1 year when MGR died. I was there, and we had governor's rule for 1 year. I was with the governor. We had the IPKF going on at that time, and the entire confidential files of the IPKF force commander, General Kalkat, used to be the force commander. He used to come and discuss with the governor, and there were intelligence reports and those files and all. So the governor had a secretary who was IAS officer. He had a police ADC, an IPS officer, and I was the other ADC as the army officer. He decided that all classified documents will be kept with me. He, in his own wisdom, he thought that the Tamil issue is also involved in this conflict. So people of Tamil Nadu are all these IAS officers, IPS were all Tamilians, and they had their own political leanings.
Okay.
Whereas I being an army officer, firstly, I'm a North Indian. Secondly, I don't have any political leanings. So I would be the one who could be trusted to take care of all these classified documents, and they were of immense secret value. As a matter of fact, I never opened them also. And I never peeped into them. I never did that. Because I was not required to do that. So I didn't do it.
Yes.
Out of curiosity also, I didn't do it. So I kept these documents. It was given to me by Dr. Alexander, and I kept it in my own personal custody. So, this is an important message for the nation today, that the most trusted organization in our country is the armed forces. And a person of eminence of Dr. Alexander, who himself is an IAS officer, he did not trust another IAS officer. He trusted his army ADC. He kept all these classified documents with me rather than anybody else. So this message must go loud and clear, that the politicians must also think like Dr. Alexander thought. Do not distrust your armed forces. They mean good for you. They hold the security of the country closest to their hearts. So that was one message
Yes.
with Dr. Alexander. The second was that he was getting a lot of threats from LTTD,
Okay.
LTTE,
Yes, LTT.
and there was one letter which was written in blood.
Okay.
It was received by him, which said that in the next 72 hours you will be assassinated. So I was called by the governor's wife, Mrs. Akama Alexander, and she told, I fear for the life of my husband. He has already received this threat. I don't know if the police can protect him. So that is the point of time I drew a pistol for myself. As an ADC, I'm not supposed to be carrying a weapon with me, because that is not my charter of duty.
Mhm.
But I told Mrs. Akama Alexander, ma'am, I will be next to the governor, and at every point of time, I will draw a weapon. I will keep it with me. And you be rest assured that no harm will come. So I rang up the commissioner of police, Walter Devaram, who was known as वीरप्पन का इसने फिनिश किया था उसको वीरप्पन को.
Okay.
So he was an ex-captain in the army also.
Mhm.
So I told him, sir, governor desires I must have a. So he actually showed me a .32 pistol.
Mhm.
Now I had to be trained on that weapon. So every day in the morning from 6 to 8, I used to go to the small ranges, short ranges,
Mhm.
and carry out my weaponry. And Walter Devaram, he was a marksman. He could shoot all 6 rounds through one hole.
Okay.
He was so good. He personally taught me as a commissioner of police. Can you imagine? Otherwise, he could have told some SP or somebody.
Yes, sir.
He says, I will teach you. And in 7 days, if not better than him, I was firing as good as him.
Okay.
So after about 7 days, I said, okay, now I'm equipped. So I used to carry that weapon with me. I was the only ADC in the entire country of India who carried a weapon with him. During the LTT, I carried, and with the grace of God, touch wood, nothing happened to Dr. Alexander. There was no attack any point of time on him. And that was an interesting experience, I guess.
Yeah, that's really wonderful to know that you had a very, I could say, adventurous, I could say, assignments at that point of time. So, like, sir, now you have been retired. So, what did you do in your retirement times? Like, you are also PhD. So,
Yeah,
could I
so
say that you are a scholar now?
yeah, so you see, Vishal, it's been a very interesting 3.5 years now. As soon as I retired, within a month, I got a job as a dean of Noida Institute of Engineering Technology, a group of 6 colleges in Greater Noida, and one of the most reputed organizations.
Yes, sir.
So I did the dean for 1 year. After that, I really thought that I'm not doing what I wanted to do with my life.
Mhm.
I'm retired. Why should I continue working again? So I asked them to relieve me. So they didn't want to relieve me, so they put me in their management. So now I am in the board of directors.
Mhm.
So they give me some monthly amount they give me. Then I started venturing as a defense analyst on TV channel. I wrote a book, Breaking the Chinese Myth. I write articles regularly on defense issues on economic times. I write for many magazines. I am on the advisory panel of a number of think tanks of defense, PCRI, Index Research Forum,
Yes, sir.
Defense Research and Studies, DRAS.
Yes, sir.
Then I am a member of the Manor Parikar IDSA.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I am a life member of USI. And I am also in Sam DAS. It's a Society of Maritime and Air Warfare Studies.
Okay.
I'm associated with them. I'm invited by various universities as the chief guest on speaking on modernization of defense, defense technology. I have specialized in this field of defense technology, and now I am being asked to write a book on Modi's defense reforms. It's going to be released at the time of his elections, I think.
Okay.
So somebody has asked me to write a book, so I am undertaking writing a book on that. And today I come on Republic. I come on Times Now,
Okay.
on Bharatvash TV9, India News, NewsX, News Nation, APN News. So 8, 10 channels are regularly calling me for discussions. So it is a good. I don't have any time in the day in which I can call it my spare time.
Okay. Yes, sir.
In whatever spare time I have, I am reading or I am writing.
Okay.
I am building up my knowledge. I write for Chanakya Forum also,
Okay.
Gaurav Arya's forum.
Yes, sir, Major. Yes.
So I have already written 3 articles have been published in that. So they contacted me recently, so please write for us. So I'm writing for them. Defense aerospace is one magazine, international magazine, which I have been asked to give my comments on a particular article. 4 questions. Today morning only I have sent them my comments. I have been also invited by the Indian Institute of Public Administration also
Okay.
speak on the defense acquisition process. I was in a war game sponsored by the Ministry of Defense on corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board. So I do. So I am into so many things. So I am actually working with the Russian embassy now.
Okay.
We have a program with them next month
Okay.
because we are celebrating 75 years of our friendship
Oh, okay.
with the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
So we have also invited a couple of ministers also, central ministers also, to be part of this. Uh, Last month, worked with the Israeli embassy. We did some joint programs with them.
Okay.
I was one of the speakers in that event. So like that, it's a good space I have, because right now I do what I want to do. I'm not bound by anybody.
Yes, sir. That's true, sir.
So I am living my own space, I can say.
That's really wonderful to know that even after retirement, you are engaged in so many overwhelming activities. So, like, I would like to know, like, so did you join any veteran organization after retirement?
No, I was offered by Veterans India,
Mm-hmm.
this organization. I was offered as the regional head for North India,
Okay.
looking after Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, I don't have time. See,
Mm-hmm.
if you, the post may be good, everything may be good, and the work may be good, but then you have to devote also time to that activity. Now, if I can't do justice to that activity, I should not take it on.
That's
So
true.
just for the sake of taking on, I must not take it. So I regretted to them. I have thanked them a lot.
So, sir, I will be taking just few questions, sir, on the last segment of this interview. So that will be more of a philosophical questions as far as the armed forces are concerned. So, did your experience influence your thinking on the war or the military? So, how do you see that? How your experience have influenced your thinking on the military and war?
Yeah, this question is not clear.
So, sir, I'm asking this, how did your experience influence your thinking about the military and the war in general? So how did you see this, what's the role of the armed forces, and how you personally feel as far as the war and the military is concerned?
You see, today, unfortunately, the army has been overexposed in every field. And government has to realize that in case you want an army who can deliver,
Mhm.
you have to remove army from all the internal security duties. You have to have your own organization to take care of internal security. Because army is not geared or trained to do internal security jobs.
Yes, that's true.
It is of the paramilitary forces, it's of the police forces,
Mm.
BSF to some extent. So we must get out of this, because we have been trained to fight a war, to fight a conventional enemy, and we have to focus on that. So our resources are getting depleted by carrying on internal security. Our men are getting exposed to different kinds of corruption, because moment you get involved in internal security, you have dealings with people, and then with the people, corruption also flows in,
Yes, sir.
and it is also seeping into the army. But the leadership is also leaning towards political bosses, which should not happen. You should not tinker with the leadership of the army. Let the army follow its rules of succession. A moment you want a particular chap to be appointed in a particular place because you politically feel that he will be subservient to you, you are destroying your military.
That's true, sir.
So this is my experience, and earlier the nation will understand it, the better.
Yes, sir. And sir, how did your experience affected your life? Like, do you see that your service in the Indian Army has affected your life in any sense?
See, a sense of pride, national pride. Wearing the uniform itself makes your blood pump in you 100 times more than anybody else.
Yes, sir.
The and whatever you do, in the course of your duty, you are doing for the national cause. And when you do something for the national cause, it gives you a great feeling of satisfaction because you are in a profession where you can make a difference to the security of the nation. So, this feeling, what I got in my 37 years of service in the Indian Army, was immense. And even after I've retired, I have carried this ethos with me. Today, I am a mentor to so many young students. I influence their thought process. I guide them. I channelize their strength into the right area instead of wasting their time into other things. So, this kind of lifestyle which I had led in the armed forces has really changed my thought and today it is giving back time. You know, so many of the forums I invited, I don't ask for money कि भाई आप मुझे कितना दोगे आने के लिए. So I do it pro bono for the sake of being able to send a message to the young students of the country. So that is important. So this kind of a social service is also required from people like us who have a wealth of experience, who have gone through so many situations in life. And I think that is the ultimate moment of satisfaction.
That's wonderful, sir. So, sir, this is my last question of this interview. So, is there anything you would like to add in this interview which has not been covered up by me in this interview?
See, I just want to send a message to everybody that do not spend or do not get influenced by whatever you see on social media. Today, social media has become a great influencer. There is a profession which is also called influencers, who young boys and girls are trying to project some brand name and they want you to buy that brand. They want to influence your sense of dressing and speaking and talking and whatever. Please be your own self. Do not try to copy others because every person has his own identity in life. Don't become, okay, I want to be like Shah Rukh Khan or I want to be like. No, you be like yourself. But have role models who channelize your thoughts in achieving what you want to achieve. Always dream big.
Yes.
I always say your dream is your extent of your imagination. The more you imagine, the more you will achieve. So always do not limit your goals. Keep your goals as they are and work incrementally towards achieving those goals. And success will be yours.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I will be concluding this interview. Thank you so much, sir, for allowing me to interview and
Thank you, Vishal.
insights and observation as far as the military and your involvement is concerned in the armed forces, and the messages you are sharing for the younger generation of this country. So I'm very thankful to you for allowing me to interview, sir.
Thanks, Vishal. Wonderful.
Yes, sir.
It was wonderful being with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So I will be stopping. Yes, sir. I will be stopping this interview at 1400 hours.